welcome to the first of the podcasts that we're going to be doing about our family business, which is over 150 years old. We've spoken a lot historically about history going a long way back, but what we haven't done is looked at most recent history. So I have the fortune of being able to bring my parents in to talk about that today, who will be able to sort of talk through when they first came into the business, what conditions were like then, what's changed from the 1970s through to, I guess, when I joined in 2010, and just generally have a conversation about that. And it's fascinating because we're sitting in a room that I don't know if you realise this was the first office that I ever had. Where we're sitting in right now, it's changed a little bit, but I remember leaving London in, well, this is about me, but leaving London in 2009 and joining it January 2010. It was freezing cold and being driven into work by my parents, which was a bit odd, having been sort of semi-grown up for a while. Having two pairs.
Make yourself in for.
Yes, I know. And then I'm wearing two pairs of socks in here.
I don't remember this being the outcome.
It was freezing, and then being asked by the then sales director to try and work out what freestanding display units were, and I hadn't got a clue. So 16 years later.
Well, you came in for work experience at one stage, didn't you? And I remember.
Yeah, that was a bit early. That was really the sort of
sat you on the hand press, and you really didn't like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, if I'd have thought this is where I'd have ended up, like you always tell people, I didn't see it happening, and there were separating nibs and corners, and I think
clips
and corners as well.
No, I didn't think the corners got muddled up.
They were in the same polishing. You see, this is an interesting start. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about polishing.
Well, I mean, of course, Manuscript came out of a different company, didn't it? So, it was 1976. Your mother would say that she's always been in it because she was here.
1949.
Baby, as a baby.
Definitely.
Yes.
I remember my father coming back smelling of oil because he'd been handling oily goods all day.
Oh my goodness. And that wasn't in this building, but that was in.
We haven't built this building then. This was the top factory.
Yeah.
No.
So,
I remember this being built.
Yeah. That was in 1990.
In bits, it was built in sections.
We're in that part of the top factory built as well. We had extended it after 76. But when we got here, it was after 76, and I had no idea what I let myself in for. Absolutely none at all. To find yourself ending up working with your mother and father-in-law was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it's all enough with your parents, I mean.
That's why I asked coming.
Pretty much. Keep the peace.
Yeah.
But no, it's 1976. It was a very different business because it was Lennart's, Lennart & Co. And Manuscript wasn't here, but we were heavily involved in writing instruments. I think it worked out one time. During the period we had a contract with Papermate for one of their pens, Pen Clip. And I reckon we probably made 1 billion clips by the time the contract ended.
Wow.
It started in England, it went to France, and then it went to Italy, and then it went to America, and then it disappeared. But it was huge. We made a huge number of tiny parts. And of course, I'm talking about how many pen nibs were we making at that stage, obviously. That was about 50 million a year.
My goodness.
50 million a year, and they were dip pens or pens for fountain pens, children's fountain pens. And of course, all that trade has quietly disappeared.
It's certainly changed a lot, hasn't it? Yeah.
Right back to basics. But we came in, I digress, but I wanted to go and spend some time in Paris. We were both qualified. Your mother was obviously a barrister and me as an accountant.
Yeah.
I thought a couple of years in Paris would go really well.
This was just after we married.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wanted to go abroad.
Yeah. I should have actually also introduced you originally. That's proud of me. So my mother is Malissa Stockbridge and my father, Nick Stockbridge, married in 73, so 53rd year. We had the golden wedding a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Amazingly, they've lived the way they never had a crossword between them.
Oh,
well. Always agree on absolutely everything.
Yes, absolutely.
But no, amazingly have worked together all that time in various different businesses. But no, I didn't know that about Paris. It's fascinating.
they always
No.
want to go abroad.
I had no idea what my parents-in-law did. Absolutely none at all. We'd never been down here before we got married. Well, we had come down.
Always in a single mind. Yeah, you did.
I wasn't shown around the factory, what existed anyway at the time. I said,
My father always expected you to come into the business.
did it?
Yeah.
And ironically, my parents never thought I was going to come into the business. So,
We did our
just to persuade me.
Yes.
Not hopefully out of competence, but more because it can be quite a tough, lonely industry
Challenging,
when
yes.
running a family business. But
Anyway, in 75, 76, your grandparents were seriously under pressure because the business was growing. It had broken through in various trades. They made small metal pressings for not just writing instruments, but for stationery and leather goods and for electronics, actually, for telephone exchanges. Made them in their millions. And of course, their strength was purely based on quality of tooling that they could produce here. I think we had 250 people.
Mostly women.
Mostly women.
all local.
All local, yeah.
Yeah.
And loads of hand presses,
Yeah.
little automation. But they'd succeeded in automating manufacture of pen nibs as well as other products. And that all was all coming from electronics and coming from other little repressings.
All precision pressings.
All precision pressings. But if you could make a pen nib automatically, then you can make practically everything else.
But it's all on the same power press, isn't it?
Yes,
Regardless of
all lightweight.
whatever the widget is,
Yeah.
and then it's the tooling inside.
Mostly maximum 30 tons.
Yeah.
So it's all very light.
Yeah.
And all progression tooling,
Yeah.
which is where,
So explain the progression tool to the layman out there.
well,
How's that?
progression tooling is that you feed in a piece of metal on coil at one end, and it goes through a whole. The progression is the various stages within a tool that actually creates the shape or the form, and it drops it out the other end,
Yeah.
and fundamentally it's finished. Apart from
But it is,
being,
is it?
they've been plated
Yeah.
or heat treated
Yeah.
or various other processes,
It's always a
depending on what it
fascinating
is.
part of this.
So you're pulling and pushing metal. And
Yeah.
that's the clever bit.
And then historically, that was all done on those hand presses until it was automated, which we still have obviously got, and we still own those hand tools, which are fascinating. They look Victorian.
Oh,
Victorian.
Nanart still makes the one thing that made us a lot of money was metal corners
Yeah.
for diaries and leather goods, etc., which they still do.
Mhm.
But obviously the volumes have gone down. But we made millions of those. And
But I think
very
we're the first
efficient.
people to make them automatically, aren't we?
Well, I think we were, yes, and that was all clever tooling, and that was again all progression tooling. Oh, I can't remember, 100 million a year.
Amazing, isn't it?
And it got to the top.
I always think when I talk about these things with my friends, and now when obviously we come on to when you start the brand manuscript, but when you're talking about the widgets, the pieces, the elements that go into a product, and someone looks, you go, oh, you make pen nibs or you make clips. They don't give you a strange, quizzical look, but then they realise that someone's got to be making those things, right? And it's amazing that it's been here in Shropshire, and you've said that as a family we've not only made billions of corners or clips, but billions of pen nibs. I mean, that is our
Yes, absolutely. But that goes much further back.
further back.
And indeed, one of the early things that I did was to buy, I'm trying to remember their name now, Austrian company, which is our brand. We'll come back in a minute. Because we had a loss, a lot of our old hand tools for a whole variety of pen clips, for pen nibs.
Yeah.
So if you look at those old charts of pen nibs, the whole massive variety of them, we hadn't the ability to make them, and I wanted to bring them back.
Yeah.
Right? So we bought an Austrian company who had all the patents still, but they're going out, they're closing down. So
clearly
all
that'll
the
be
tools.
used. We'll have to look into it.
The names of the
It'll be added to
Yes. And that allowed us to use all those hand presses.
Yeah.
Because actually, some of those old-fashioned pen nibs, there isn't enough volume in a single product to actually make it fully automatically.
Yeah.
Right, and actually something you can't make fully automatically.
Because you want to be making sort of 30 to 50,000 batches when you're setting a press up, don't you? And then
Well, yeah, hand press, but you've got to be making 100,000 plus. I mean, these tools are very expensive.
Yeah.
Even then, they were very expensive. So, actually, still nearly.
well, what do you think about that? Let's go back to, obviously we're in Highly. You will remember why it was Highly. You know, remember why Grandpa bought the business.
Well, yes, he did, because he needed ladies' hands, and it was a mining village, so the miners were working in the mine, and the ladies who needed occupation came here to work. And my mother used to say, "Do you knit?" That was one of her questions.
Okay.
Because if you had the ability to knit, so you had that dexterity, manual dexterity, she was pretty confident that meant that you would be able to handle knits.
So I wouldn't be very good at that.
You would not have been, you wouldn't have been chosen for hand press.
So we should just digress again here and explain. Of course, your grandmother was a gynecologist,
Yes.
and apparently one of her claims to fame is she set up family planning in Kidderminster.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's very relevant. she did down antenatal clinics.
Anyway, so when the company grew, your grandfather said to her, "Look, you've got to come and help because
I need somebody else.
I need someone to look after all these
I don't
women."
have to pay too
And
much.
the birth shot through the roof.
Drop down, I think. And she treated, so she became our personnel director,
Right. Yeah.
looking after all these women, open door policy, looking after all these women, taught them, she was extremely good at handling them. But she treated like each one as a patient.
Yeah.
She was very, very important.
She said it was very much easier being a doctor because people did as you said if you were the doctor. In those days, they probably don't so much now.
Yeah.
But when you're talking to employees, they are not so pleased
Yes.
to be
No,
told.
it's changed a lot as well, hasn't it? Apart from single employees to be told. But so my grandmother, your mother, May Charles.
May Charles.
Yeah, and married Arthur Charles, who was obviously third generation of the pen business, and he had gone into pen manufacturing in Birmingham at age 16, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He'd been thrown in at the very deep end
Very deep
at
end.
the time that
And that was Heston.
That was
TS and Co that were struggling during the Depression.
Just for,
Yeah, sort of in the early 30s, we looked at it before. And obviously,
Put it in perspective, the steel pen nib industry in Birmingham was a major supplier to the world. Major supplier. They made billions of the things.
yeah,
In each country, there was probably one major supplier: American, German, French, Japanese. I think I would say those were
still
Italian.
really, yeah.
But the volumes were, if you sort of add ball pens and roller balls and everything together, their volumes were that.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
were making billions.
Yeah,
And Hessen was one of the smallest companies in Birmingham making them.
yeah.
But they were making big, very big volumes too.
Yes, yeah. It was 75% of anything written in the world was done using a pen made in Birmingham during that period, which is was a fascinating statistic. And obviously, a lot of different.
Just prior to that,
Yeah.
they made buttons.
Yes.
That was why he had the female hands.
Okay.
Because again, they were dexterous because they
Oh,
made
buttons.
mother of pearl buttons.
Oh, really?
Proper mother of pearl buttons. You had to pierce them. You had to shape them and pierce them.
And fishing tackle.
Yes?
That was
Fish hooks.
Fish hooks.
Fish hooks in Redditch.
But I don't know much.
So coming soon, Tom Hessen fish hooks. Watch this space.
This was prior to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
This was prior to that.
Yes, fish hooks. And there's still catalogues of this. Indeed, you go online and you look for a second-hand, I think you can look for a car, it's a fishing rod. But there's still sold some of them. They're very old, you understand?
We don't know much about that.
No, we don't know much about that.
But he then came back, from the war. Whether we go into too many details of that or not, but obviously he had spent time as a Japanese prisoner of war.
3.5 years on Java.
In
Yes.
Java. Came back.
6'2", 6 stone.
Yeah, so very much my size, but 6 stone. Incredible tenacity to survive, and pens was the only thing he really knew.
He then took law exams.
He did. Sorry, yes.
He took some law exams. He wanted to be a barrister because his father had been a barrister, but he couldn't continue with that because he was working all hours of the day and night as well as trying to study, and that wasn't possible. So he took contract and taught.
Yes, he passed those.
Oh, he passed those.
Yes,
Well, those
yes,
are the ones
yes,
I've got,
yes.
the nibs that he took, pens or nibs as we call them, the Thunder Pen, and it says on that box, you know, I studied for my bar exams, and that's the
That's
one.
right.
Yeah, we are going to.
So he was a formidable man. And he learnt about law while he was a prisoner of war, because there was a man there who taught law, and he learned. And paper, when you were out there, of course, was worth everything because you couldn't get it. So he had this paper that was almost like tracing paper that he wrote on a pencil, and that's how he learned law.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Amazing.
So anyway, he came back and set up in Highly. Well, he didn't start. He started off by working for somebody else, but
Well, the links there, again, reading his book are fascinating because it was with a Mitchell, but
Yes.
it wasn't William Mitchell,
Wasn't
the other
William
John
Mitchell,
Mitchell, I
John,
think.
yeah.
And my understanding is that he decided to exit that and set up on his own because Estabrook came in and wanted to buy that and acquire
Exactly that.
Grandpa's
Yeah.
business, and he didn't like the idea. It's strange how generations don't change personalities, but he didn't like the idea of working for somebody, which is probably quite relevant to all of us. But and there's that link to Estabrook, and Estabrook is obviously a brand that's reinvented itself again. They're doing brilliantly out in the market. There's a rest that's it's a lot of respect for them and some synergies there. But it's amazing how sort of intricate that
Yes.
history is. So he then set up in Highly in 1947, I believe, which is only 2 years coming out of the war.
Yeah.
And then 1949 officially moved it to.
Well, he took over Dylan and Co.
no, not to start to begin with.
No, he did eventually because
He did,
they folded.
He started off really with just Highly Pens,
Yes.
and it wasn't a limited company.
No.
And then it became a Dylan Co. Highly Pens Limited, which was the limited company, when they merged,
Well, they merged. He took over the market.
and the
Yeah.
last dropped out.
Yeah, which is was a Prussian company, one of the larger ones from Berlin
Yes.
at the time.
They had amazing
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, but no link to our family, which is
No
why
link to our
it's always a
family.
difficult one when I'm trying to explain that to customers, and that link towards Manuscript and the brand that you set up are 1989/90. But then T. Hessen and Co. and Tom Hessen, which is very much celebrating our family history specifically with that type of brand. So there are two very individual.
Yes, he did reintroduce Hessen and Co. as a brand in '49 when it was merged. They went on with that element. And then did we change this name to Dylan Co. Highly Pens, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, because we wanted Highly Pens back in there somewhere.
And then at what stage, obviously, during the time, when did you join the business, Mark? When did you come in after you had us?
Well, no. I was out on the road when you were a baby.
There you go, you can tell what you're
Yes.
unloved.
So yeah, I just neglected it. I didn't tell you about it.
78?
Yeah.
Well, I was company secretary about the time, and director at the time that you started at the company. So I think I started a year after you, because I never intended to come into the company. But
No, you
I-
persuaded.
I,
First thing I did was to appoint an accountant because I was.
Which is, my father was an accountant by trade.
That's it, I wanted to do.
Coopers, it was like the original
Cooper Brothers.
Cooper Brothers, which became obviously PricewaterhouseCoopers as it merged into
It's like,
you were working civil service.
I worked for the Treasury Solicitor, yes.
Yeah. One of the very few female barristers back then.
Well, in those days there weren't all that many. Yes, it was quite rare, but it's now very common.
So definitely bringing very different skill sets to running a business.
Definitely.
Which is,
All required. A number of times your mother got us out of trouble with the laws, with the legal things. Obviously, it's a legion.
Don't do that.
I ignore that quite often.
Well, at least you knew the risks. So
it's important to know those and then decide which direction to go.
Absolutely.
And then the other obviously businesses around you mentioned once that nib comes off, or whatever that piece part comes off, the progression tool is finished, there are other elements to that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, just on actual progression tooling, we make parts for telephone exchanges,
Okay.
and there were big standard telephones, Plessy, etc., in those days. They're all gone now. These were all moving, but when these telephone exchanges were used, the size of this room. The first time we had our first telephone exchange here, pretty much the size of this room,
Okay.
kit,
Wow.
literally.
Wow.
You
The
know.
mechanical bits, you know.
Yes, they were all moving parts, you see. And we were making lots of these parts for connectors, really.
So that exchange would service how big an area would it?
Well, Highly would have had a telephone exchange, had a telephone
So
exchange.
each individual village had its own telephone exchange.
Pretty much, or a little group village, yeah. And they were all moving parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so actually, when we made those parts, we actually reeled them back in. We produced them on a reel, and we re-reeled them and shipped them on a reel, so they could be automatically assembled somewhere else.
And were you shipping those? I mean, a bit. You know, we've always said that one of our strengths is we're multinational in terms of our export business.
Oh, well, there's nothing left in the way of that export business when I arrived.
Okay.
Very little left, and that's not fair, not nothing, but very little left. And I set myself the target of establishing an overseas market, because I could see that really we weren't going to have a big enough market in the UK for us.
And he loved to travel.
Yeah.
So he spent a lot of
And
years travelling.
not overly patient with noisy children either, which is
No.
a great advice.
No. Small things about the house.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that took you quite a lot to the Far East, more than my travelling.
Well, initially
Yeah.
it took me to Europe, but as far as these funny little corners we made in their millions, and that started with Charles Letts
Yeah.
in Collins in the UK. We made their products.
Dunhill? Is that one of the ones?
Well, the Dunhill
Much
was later.
later.
Dunhill was much later. That's when we moved into the luxury end of it. But no, the printing trade, the diary manufacturing trade, there was a lot of diary manufacturing in Europe and in America. Limited number in the Far East. The forest was growing, and eventually, England, Europe, America all went to the Far East for their manufacture. They went to China, they went to Malaysia, Indonesia a bit, Hong Kong. So I had to actually go there to make certain I still had a product.
We used to go for quite long periods, 3 weeks at a time.
5 weeks
5
sometimes.
weeks sometimes.
That was the worst one I ever did was 5 weeks. That was too far too long.
Yeah.
That's too long.
I did calculate that I'd been away 5 years. During the first 15 years of marriage, I'd been abroad for 5 years, off and on.
Yeah.
Secret of long happy marriage.
What's the law of that?
Me still.
This is 10 years in, so I mean, I'll go away for a bit now. But,
No, I travelled a lot. And the UK
And of course, you
penny.
couldn't contact people then either.
yeah.
Because, I mean, you had the odd phone call,
Yes.
but that was it.
The one thing I said to your dear mother was, do not expect me to telephone you when I arrive, because
Yeah.
there's going to be a time when I can't, and then you're going to be worried. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Better to. Yeah.
He was very fortunate he was married to someone who didn't worry.
Yes. Yeah, true. And that would have been the sort of early 80s, mid 80s, is that?
I started travelling late 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s. You know, it was 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And I went to America quite a lot as well, and so it was all over.
And when was the most exciting few years during that, do you think?
Well, the most exciting few years, frankly, of all of that was our dilemma was, as a classic small metal piece part manufacturer, was that we were prone to or subject to pricing control, because the contracts with one or two companies were so big, and they were playing with 2 or 3 suppliers. It could be an all or nothing thing. You'd either get nothing, wasn't you get bits of it.
Yeah.
That I was becoming more and more agitated about survival, really, even though we were doing very well at that time. So in the mid-80s, we set about, firstly we outgrew our heat treatment area. Well, heat treatment, pen clips and some pen nibs have to be heat treated, which gives them their spring. And we no longer had the space to actually have the capacity, even though we work 24 hours a day, to have the capacity to provide what we wanted.
And we'll just come off there quickly. We'll try and remember where we dropped off there. But fundamentally, with heat treatment, there was another business, wasn't there?
Well, that's why we set it up.
Right. So
We set it up, but because we couldn't cope with our own capacity, and we didn't want to rely on anybody externally.
Right.
We set a company out called Alpha Treatments.
Stockbridge, where I forgot.
In King's Swinford, and it was Kevin Rowan, exceptionally good at doing this, was really fed up with the people he was working for, and so he came and worked for us. We gave him some interest in business, etc., and that was set up.
And that fundamentally just hardens the material, whatever material it is, to make
It puts spring in it,
spring in it.
or it colours it, but it puts spring in it.
Okay.
It's a hardening and
It's
tempering
hardening,
process.
tempering, there's
Yeah.
always tempering. So
Yeah.
one uses water, one uses oil.
And then you're going to be polishing the product as well.
We polished in-house, and that required us to create much more space. When I got in '76, the top factory was about half the size it is now.
Right.
So we had to add capacity for finishing processes. We had to add capacity for presses, and at that stage we had a significant number of toolmakers. I think 25 toolmakers, which
Yeah.
was a lot. And
Apprentices.
we had apprentices,
Yeah,
etc. So we set up Alpha Rowan and to cope with our capacities situation. And then the next one that came along was we set up Manuscript. And then
What about Highly Steel?
Highly Steel was set
A
up
little bit later.
yes.
And that was because you needed raw material to feed.
Well, we couldn't buy the raw material we wanted in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, so wasn't made,
Quality.
and indeed, I mean, for today, expectation to be able to reproduce or reintroduce that type of steel manufacturing in the UK I think it's not possible because we've lost the techniques. It would take a very long time. So we bought from Europe and mostly Germany.
Right.
We tried all sorts of other places. Sweden we used for a while, but we bought for Europe because these are thin gauge, high quality materials, stainless steel as well. The top end of the market. We tried Japan once, but the lead time is too great, really. So we got to the stage where, in actual fact, we set up another company. We had another contact who was extremely good salesman, but couldn't run his own company. He kept on doing terrible, going solo, and then going bust. Couldn't finance it.
No,
Well, they didn't go bust,
Right. Okay.
but they wound up. But he came and worked for us.
Yeah.
Highly Steel String,
Yeah.
and that too, that was then our supplier, and so we then had a group.
But that was after Manuscript.
Yes.
So then
Yeah.
we put Manuscript came in 1989. It was
Yeah.
founded in 1989.
Yes.
Probably
Started in
started
1990. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fundamentally started to plug a gap in the market.
Well, it was to create our own brand. It was a very possibly a
Your own
long-term
customer.
project. We want because the people we were supplying in the UK were disappearing because all the manufacturing moving abroad. I think it got to the stage where it was only Parker left,
Yeah.
and of course they've now gone to France.
our customers like particularly Osborne
Yeah.
that sold click.
We did it with the help of the ex-chairman of
Platoon.
Platoon.
And there was a link
Chris
there
Sanders.
as well, wasn't there? Because Platoon at one stage owned
Yes.
shares within our business.
We did
right?
DMR.
Because we were supplying such a large volume of products with it to
Well,
safeguard
there
that.
were two things that I did to change the company during from about 79 through to 89 is our building was on a 6 or 7 year lease
Okay.
and land. And I bought that back from the local authority.
Okay.
Right. And we bought that back for a limited sum of money.
Yeah.
And then I went after Platinum had 30% shareholding in our business, and I bought that back when they got into trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So I bought them both back.
Yeah.
So that effectively we
Yeah,
lost control over it.
Yeah.
And then we developed, we were, at the same time as we were doing the development here, so, in this factory as
So
well.
how many, because this is about 30,000 square feet
Just over.
sitting here, and up there it's,
That's the same, bit more.
yeah,
65,000 in the end it was.
yeah,
Plus the land next door, which we bought.
yes, of course,
Because
yeah,
we needed parking.
yeah.
During that time period, of course, more and more automation, less and less need for hands. So our workforce did go down quite significantly.
But then, so Manuscript started 1990. Chris Andrews from Nottingham came in.
Yeah. He was our sales director.
And at that time, you obviously have these different satellites of businesses. How was that? How are you coping to?
I rather enjoyed that because
Okay.
I actually did it. Striking everybody else to get on with it.
Right, okay. Yeah, sounds about right.
Then when I happened to want to go on getting on with it myself.
Well, everybody else said, how did you cope with that?
Well, it was interesting. Yes, it was quite difficult because obviously they were very different businesses,
Yeah,
and there was more travelling. So you had to travel between the satellites, and obviously, if you've got several various administrative duties that have to be carried out, and filings that have to be made, and all of this. And then, of course, when we divested ourselves of those companies,
Yes, because we sold.
that mostly fell on me because obviously, it was, I think
and they need to do that quickly.
it did, yeah, well, effectively and efficiently.
Yeah.
So
Yes, we sold Alpha to Ken Rowan because
he was running it.
he
I mean, he was the business.
And it still operates today.
Yes.
Still, yeah,
Yes.
Still going
yeah,
today.
Yeah.
we sold Highly Steel to
Tice.
German company.
German company.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
German company, and that's still going. I think.
No, not sure.
I'm not sure what's happened to Tice themselves. We sold both.
Yeah.
And obviously, and then of course we separated out Nanarts from Manuscript.
So that was sort of 2006.
2006.
Yeah. So you've sort of gone through. Manuscript would have been running for sort of 15, 16 years at that point. And you built that up into, with export and using your contacts that you made there. And
Yes, but it was still small.
yeah.
They were very different sorts of
Yeah.
business. I mean, the one, you start off with steel coil,
Yeah.
and you punch out lots of bits. And the other area, you start with lots of bits and package them beautifully.
Yeah.
So it's, one is, and you've obviously got to have all the pretty designs and the way you sell it.
Yeah.
It's a completely different mindset. So the two businesses
Absolutely.
running side by side were very different.
The cost model is, it's a bit like us as a business now, where we've got the distribution element and we've got our
Yes.
own brands. And
Yes.
one of the things, as you know, we've been doing is focusing much more on our own brands again. With obviously the distribution element being absolutely key to us, but ensuring that we also are masters of our own destiny. It's fascinating when I read Grandpa's book, Family Fortunes, that he's written, and he notes all these things about setting up, about when you first presented the idea of Manuscript, and him understanding the importance of having a brand, being masters of your own destiny. And it's like, okay, this is history replaying itself. With some degree, everybody has Manuscript. And having that hybrid model now as distributor and brand owner is vital to our model, but it's very difficult to work out from a costing perspective, which is where, the likes of people we've brought in, one behind the camera now, we've got a head of sales, etc. Understand the digital elements to cost it correctly. So, but that was sort of, so you went through the late 90s and the noughties, and I think at that time business was difficult, fair to say. That was probably you went through the bit you alluded to, an exciting part.
Yes.
Like you've always said to me,
Huge inflation.
I still remember 2014 to 16 when, you were still very active in the business, and you were still too as well. And we were having some fantastic growth as Manuscript in America. There was the hand lettering.
Yes, absolutely.
And I come in and all I ever known was growth, and I thought, well, this is easy. Have these commercial ideas, and we'll sell them and it'll just grow. It's just I didn't know. My mother goes, it's not going to be like that, Charlie. I was like, I'll be fine. And then suddenly, 10 years later than that, the roller coaster the business has been on, and
Certain things have got in the way, really, haven't they?
Yeah.
Commercial activities.
yeah, but you've always got to keep changing, haven't you? That's what
Yes.
you
Got to keep
both
versatile
did.
and
Yeah.
flexible.
We did.
because there was
But
two
we always kept the nibs.
Yeah.
We still
Yeah,
own the rights to the nibs. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
sort of, there are still.
it is our absolute lifeblood from that perspective, and outside these walls are still product being made. The camera can't see that, but the 30,000 square feet we talk about is literally out there. We have ladies assembling product, plus we have up-to-date warehouse product distribution side. Just next to the camera, we've got a fancy new laser engraving machine. So everything's modernising. We've got to keep moving that forward. And there was Stuart Houghton as well. So,
Oh, we bought them, yes, I forgot about them.
yeah,
Stuart Houghton was a company in Ledbury, Liverpool, who made seals, wax seals. And they were closing down.
yeah,
They were busted. And we bought them out of receivership.
Yeah.
When we brought with them one of their managers,
yeah.
Linda Jones.
That's right.
And that was just an added. Again, they used to make the waxes and the seals in Ledbury, but then they moved it to Hong Kong.
Yeah, yeah.
Who in turn, actually, I think it was made in China, but it was handled out of Hong Kong. And this still works. You're still working.
Well, we just rebadged them again, and I think there's a real TikTok craze on sealing. There was, there's a lot that we can do with that range. It's sort of evergreen range. It's always something people want to personalise that.
Something very satisfactory.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Liquid wax and making a mark.
And then, as you said, you sold off the Preston's part.
We had a management buyout
Management buyout.
to our directors.
Yeah. Well,
We wanted to go our separate ways, and it was a long way to actually protect the totality of it. And I was no longer really focused on the pressing side of things, but our other directors. So we had a management buyout. The directors took over, took on certain responsibilities and acquired the top factory. And we retained this, so it gave us the opportunity to focus much more on what we wanted to do.
yeah, which at the time was very much up in the air, really. I think at that stage, 2006, 2007, there was no real indication that myself or my two older sisters, who were both incredibly successful in their respective careers, wanted to come into that. I mean, I was very early in my career. I left university and had been very focused on wanting to do sports management. That was what I wanted to do, and then realised, well, that wasn't going to work quickly, and I'm not very patient as well. And the role that I thought I was going to get, I didn't get, and then I went to accountancy, and sort of 2009, I sprung the bombshell.
Yes.
And I have great thanks to both my sisters Anna and Lucy. But I remember the dinner we had at Anna's flat in London, and they said, well, they could see I wasn't happy, and they sort of said, well, why don't you go and as a family business, small business up in Shropshire, why don't you go and do that? At the time I was running a football team down in London, I had my life down there, and I know you're very cautious about whether I'd want to do that. So we sprung it on you around about Lucy's wedding in September 2009, and it sort of snowballed from there, didn't it? And first going to be a 3-year plan, I think it was.
Yes, it was. So we did it 3 years.
To see if I liked it or
Both sides. Yes.
Yeah. And here we are now, really.
Yeah.
So,
It's made our lives much more exciting. It's fantastic to see it grow and prosper. I mean, my parents would be so pleased and so delighted to see it all still going on, because it's, it's their whole life, really. I suppose it's been my life, all of my life. So it's amazing to see it
I know.
change, and you retain the flexibility, and you've got an eye for product development, and it's marvellous.
My wife's a doctor, so that's, Granny would have been, it's amazing how people sit around, and it's a shame I can't sit and interview them as well. That would have been, but I was very close to them. I was trying to get emotional into this, because I've done well without getting to them. I was very close to them, and it's fascinating if I'd been able to chat to them. But Grandpa, as I said, has written that book, which, as you can see, because I'm talking about these with knowledge, which I wouldn't have had.
You wouldn't.
10 years ago, I wasn't interested. I still remember with shame the business studies reports I did to, and I think it was on the factory with my friend Charlie, also called Charlie, and we presented it to you, and you were looking for it like, what have I paid for your education for? Because at the time, you just didn't really understand,
Yeah, we looked at you and said, well, he's never going to get into business. This is nonsense.
There's no disrespect to teachers, but they weren't teaching. There was no relevance to it, until you actually make a product, or now with everything that we put into it, from the people we employ to the HR to sourcing product to making product to branding product to manufacturing out there, all the elements that go into financing it.
I thought you absorbed. Well, I mean, we discuss things in front of you all the time, because obviously we brought our business home. And so it's like anything, doctors tend to breed doctors, and business people do. You do. It suddenly all makes sense.
It does.
Like,
Yeah.
you suddenly go, oh, that's what they meant.
Well, I think, remember, you had a rule at one stage between 8 and 8, you weren't allowed to talk about the business, because that's pretty hard if you're living and working together. And you've always said that it was a strength because you could go through it together, but it was a weakness because you had to go through it together, and all your eggs were very much
in one basket.
Yes. Yes.
So it's been fascinating for me. I'm very grateful, very lucky to have had that guidance over the years, and we continue to try and develop, and we continue to try and grow things differently. And as you know, I'm super passionate about the Tom Hesson brand. I'm super passionate about Manuscript and about our distribution elements, all elements of what we're trying to do here as a business. And as you always say, we're some of our parts. We have a lady retiring in about 20 minutes. We've got a presentation who's worked in our IT department for 10 years, and before that for the company that supplied the IT software for another probably 10.
At least.
We tend to have people who work for us for a long time, and hugely invested in you two, and have been hugely respectful and loyal to you two historically, and then hopefully to some degree myself, and
I'm sure they will be.
but I think this isn't anything we've missed on that period.
No. I think I'll end up the longest serving.
I think you will have the longest serving. I don't think I'm going to beat that record.
76 and counting.
76 and counting is pretty good. Still company secretary, still chairman of the
50 years for me this year.
50 years this year. We haven't got the medal. We should do that. Really nice.
Give me a pen.
Tom Hesson watch, which you like. They're coming soon. Tom Hesson watch is launching later today. No, thank you very much for your time. And
well, thank you for taking on with heritage, because it's a big thing.
It's exciting, and I enjoy it. So, thank you for watching.
Well done.
Good.
Thanks.